This is the Tenba DNA 10. Want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. So disclaimer, I bought this bag with my own money. Nobody paid me to do this review, and I'm not sponsored by anybody. I bought this for retail from B&H, and if I have to get a different bag, I'm gonna have to sell this one at a loss and move on with my life. So you're getting a very unbiased opinion here, or at least I'm gonna try to be unbiased. When I was looking for a bag, I had an idea in mind of what I wanted to carry around, and sometimes the measurement numbers that you see on B&H or other websites give you an idea of what fits, but then the question arises, but does it work? The answer for me with this bag is it fits, but it doesn't work. Now, I had done a video on this bag previously, but since then I got to use this bag quite intensely on a business trip to Arizona. I climbed what's known as A Mountain or Hayden Butte in Tempe to photograph the airplanes on approach and the sunset. I got to take this out to Falcon Field and walk around photographing warbirds. And I also did a few hours on Mill Avenue doing street photography with my buddy Thomas Yoxel. Check him out, check out his Instagram. I'll put it up right here. And during all of those outings, I got to use this bag quite a bit with the kit that I have. And that really reminded me of some of the things I do and don't like about this bag and what's relevant for photographers to consider when they're looking at this DNA 10 size bag. Bags are all about preference. Anymore, there's so many good companies out there that really the question is, does this work for you? I'm gonna try to give you information that helps you answer that question for yourself. But there's always subjective and objective values in a bag, and we're gonna try to differentiate between those as we go along. The build quality on this bag is awesome. There's one thing you don't need to worry about, and that is that this bag is very well put together. This is like seatbelt quality webbing, the cloth, everything is just really great. Now the front snaps I liked initially because you don't pull them down, you pull them sideways and they're magnetized. One thing I don't like about these snaps is how easily they do tend to pop off. If you're just walking around when you brush up against something, they'll probably come loose. I think they should stay put a little bit better with stronger magnets. On the flip side, the Velcro on here is just so tough that there's just no way this bag is going to come open if you don't want it to. Now I don't have the strap with me right here because of the review, but I will say this. In the hours that I walked around with my big Sony kit in here, the strap was very comfortable. The bag is geometrically designed well with the strap. The bag stays with you, and it's a very, very comfortable bag to work out of for several hours on end. But one of the objective things is the fact that the bag is very well padded everywhere except the lid. There's absolutely no padding in this lid right here, and this can be a problem. My camera right now is about 8 inches in total length with the lens I have on there. This is about the max working length you want for a camera and lens combined, sitting like this in this bag. The reason for that is that it puts your EVF and it puts your screen very close to the lid of the bag, and the lid is not padded, so if something comes down and impacts my camera, this is not very well protected at all. Now I could add a flap, but this is going to actually impede my ability to get my camera or my lenses in and out of the bag. The front pocket on this bag is absolutely awesome. This is a great place to put batteries. It can probably hold at least 4 Sony batteries and maybe closer to 6 Fuji batteries. And these batteries are very easy to get to because of these handy zipper pull tabs. I never had a problem getting to a battery when it was in this front pocket. I love this front pocket. Objectively, this is one of the most awesome things about this bag. The end pockets are quite good as well. You could stick something like a Neewer TT560 flash in here quite easily. You could even fit something like a water bottle in here without a whole lot of trouble. The D-rings on the end are well stitched, super beefcake. I really like these. But let's talk about the big deal breaker for me that's not going to be a deal breaker for a lot of people. When I first looked at this bag, this top zipper really appealed to me because I like the easy and quick access for my camera. Now, one of the things about that top zipper hatch is that, well, the camera's not super well protected, as I mentioned a moment ago. But the other thing is that I kind of lied to myself about how well this camera and this lens and my kit as a whole was going to fit through this hatch. Now what I've got on here is a 16-35 Canon with a Sigma MC11 adapter, but it's a bit much for this bag. It's a little bit too long, as I alluded to before, but also with the lens hoods end up being a real big deal breaker with this bag because they're just a bit too big to get in and out of the bag easily, especially when you go to swap lenses. I know it seems easy as I'm standing here, but I'm also not moving around around. I'm not on a crowded street. This bag isn't hanging around my neck. I'm just standing here with this bag on a table, and it's very easy to work with, but it's not necessarily this easy to work with when you're out on the fly. The other thing that I fit into this bag, and that was definitely part of the plan from the get-go, was a 70-200. And again, this is just a bit much for this bag. Part of it is, again, the lens hood. If you take the lens hood off, a 70-200 f4 fits down in there pretty easily, and it's easy to swap out, but I run with a lens hood. One thing you're not going to get in here is a tripod collar on your 70-200. Tenba gives you some really cool pads that actually bend at certain points at a pure 90 degrees, and that creates a little side pocket for me where I stuck a Samyang 35mm 2.8. This is a great lens, I really like it, and it fits in this side pocket really well, but it is kind of hard to get to. The long and the short of it is that if you have a full frame DSLR and you want to carry around one or two big zooms, like the 70-200, like the 24-70, like the 16-35, this bag might be a bit challenging for you. Things just might not fit in there as well as you're hoping they will. I did have the 24-70 f4 with this Sony, and it did work in this bag. Again, when you combine that with where the 70-200 needs to go down this side slot, the 24-70 doesn't end up being the problem as much as it does when it's combined with the 70-200 slot and the way you have to kind of space that out. So my recommendation is this. If you're going to shoot with a full frame anything in this bag, it needs to be a very minimalist full frame setup, as in one or two very small primes and maybe a 24-70. But keep in mind, your max working depth here is seriously about 8 inches tops. But what about other kits? What about APS-C kits or even film kits? Well, here is a Nikon FE2. This is about the size of a Fuji X-T2, X-T3, and this lens on here about the size of their 50mm f2, I think. This is the 28 AIS. And as you can see, it fits. In fact, if you wedge it down, it goes all the way down in there really easily. And I haven't even remapped this bag for something of this size. So a Fuji X-T2 kit definitely would fit in here. And I think you could even get probably 4 primes in here because they're small and they're light. So depending on how you map your bag, that's not a bad option. If you want to go even smaller, well, here's a Fuji X-E3. This is a 50mm Nikon lens. This would be about the size of their 90, and guess what? It also just fits in here really easily. Tons of extra room. Remap the bag for a smaller camera, you're going to get yourself a lot of options. But now let's go the other direction. If you own a Canon, a full frame Canon, it's probably not going to work out real well for you unless you're seriously running like a 50 and a 35, and that's it. There's a 50mm 1.8 on the Salon 7. This is about the size of a 5D Mark II or a 6D. And as you can see, it does fit. It does fit, but you can tell the bag is kind of pooching a little bit. If you were to remap the bag with the pads inside, you might get this to fit a little bit better, but honestly, I think this is a bit too big of a kit for this bag. So subjectively, if I were to rate this bag, I would probably rate it 2.5 or 3 stars out of 5. It just doesn't work for me real well. The problem is that I tried to put a full frame all-in-one kit in here, and the numbers do add up that all the lenses that I currently have, my 16-35 and my 24-70, well, they do fit by the math, but in reality, things like lens hoods tend to add a little bit more than you think they do, and it makes it a very difficult bag to work out of for somebody walking around with a full frame kit like I do. My gut feeling is that if you're running a very minimalist full frame kit, you'll probably be okay or very close to the line, but if you're running an APS-C kit, this bag gives you a lot more options. So if you're a Fuji shooter or a Sony APS-C shooter, if you have an Olympus Pen F or something like that, you'll probably be very happy with this bag. If you have 2-3 lenses in one of those smaller kits, this bag is going to be more than enough. One final thing to talk about is these front pouches. These are super duper handy. Now, if you overdo the packing on the front, your iPad slot in the back isn't going to work out real well. Especially if you are using a full frame kit like I am, it's just going to add too much depth this way. So don't overload the front if you really do need to slip an iPad in the back. Here's what fits in the front pockets. I'm going to put my iPhone 8 Plus with my OtterBox in there. I've got a little SD wallet that fits in there. Here's a color card. Let's put that in there. Lens pen. I just use these for the brushes because I don't trust the other side. And here's a nifty little hand strap that I made, and let's see. Yeah, I think I can get that in right behind the iPhone. So looking at it from the top, you can definitely tell that it's smushing the bag this way, and that definitely makes an iPad pretty much impossible to get into that back pocket. But if you don't overload the front and you just put a few things in there, or you run a smaller camera kit, the iPad's probably not going to be that big of an issue. So my subjective rating for this bag might seem a little low, but that's just because it doesn't work for me personally. Will it work for you? That's up to you to decide, and I hope I've given you some information that tells you whether or not this bag is going to work for you. Objectively, there's really only two complaints that I have with the bag. That these snaps don't stay in place as well as they probably could, and the other thing is, of course, the top lacking the padding that you kind of hope it would have. So that's my review on the Tenba DNA 10. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I don't get paid for reviews, and I really just enjoy doing them in my spare time. If this video was helpful to you, share it with somebody. Give it a like and a subscription if you feel up to it. If not, no worries. But thanks so much for watching anyway. We'll see you on the next video.